Hi guys, welcome to the Wilderness channel. Today we're going to talk about tracking sticks. Okay, I have a number of tracking sticks that I use. To track, you don't need to have a stick. Okay, let's just start off by saying that. It's not necessary to have a stick to be able to track. Okay, but it is useful in some respects, in that it is an aid to tracking. It can be an aid to tracking, and it's also good for instruction when you're teaching people how to track. So I have three sticks with me. The first is this one. Okay, it's got a kind of a sharpened tip. It's quite hard. It's fairly hard wood, and this was actually carved by one of my students, and then he gave it to me as a gift. Okay, so there we go. You can see the sharp tip. It's not a very long stick, but it's actually an ideal length. It's probably just under a meter long, and it's perfect really for pointing out tracks, drawing lines around tracks, and and some of the things. What a lot of people do with their tracking sticks is they will have seals on them, seals that you use for sealing a tap or whatever, and they'd have them at various intervals, and they would use those for measuring the dimensions of a track. So if they find a set of tracks and they want to, of a particular individual animal, say a lion, male lion, they want to measure the dimensions of the track, and then as a record of what's of what they're following. So, and for comparison, so they'll measure, for example, the width of the track from one band to another, the length of the track from one band to another, the straddle of the track, and of course the length of the stride. Okay, so those are all things you can measure and you can mark off on a stick. Some people will actually make regular intervals marked on the stick that correspond to measurements, for example centimeters on the metric system, and they will measure the tracks in that way. So it just gives you a rough and ready way of kind of looking at the dimensions of a track as you go along. Okay, this stick is roughly the same length, maybe a little bit longer than the stick I just showed you, and it's bamboo. It's one of the best materials to use. Not all parts of the world have bamboo. Southeast Asia obviously has no shortage of bamboo, but bamboo is very strong and very light, so it's ideal for carrying as a tracking stick. It's not going to take up too much weight in terms of what you have to carry. So this is a great stick to use for tracking and for instruction. It's much easier to point down to something than with a stick than reach down and point with your finger. Also, if you wanted to point to a snake, better to point at it with a stick. Okay. Then this stick here is made out of wild camphor bush, which is an indigenous species in southern Africa, Tarchonanthus camphoratus. It's this particular one is quite long. Okay, it's about 1.20 meters. I would ordinarily have cut it shorter because I feel that's too long, although it does help as far as a walking stick is concerned. But the reason why I don't cut it shorter is because this wood can also be used to make a friction fire. So I will use the back end of the stick as the drill, which I'll set into the hearth, and basically make a friction fire standing up using the stick. Okay, the advantage of that is that you've got a very long shaft which you can use to keep an even pressure and a continuous pressure over an extended period of time before you have to replace or reset your hands. That's if you haven't learnt the floating hand method. Okay, but yeah, very effective for making friction fires, but a nice stick as well. It's sturdy, quite strong. You'll notice I've got an old cartridge or shell on the tip of the stick. This was actually split when it fired. So obviously the bullet sits in this end. At the back end it was split when it fired. It is a reload, so it's an old cartridge that was reloaded and yeah, over time they can split like that. So nothing too serious, but yeah. So that's how I came about this piece with no backing on it. You could of course just cut that off, cut the back off, and you know, where the primer is. But yeah, that's how I got it. And I basically fitted it to the end of the stick and glued it on, and now I have a way of protecting the end of the stick, so that when I hike and I'm pointing at things, it's not going to damage the tip of the stick. Because typically, you know, if you bang the end of a stick or whatever, it's likely to split or get damaged in some way. So this is a surefire way of making it last, you know, for a very long time. Okay, so those are 3 tracking sticks that I use. Like I said before, to track you don't need to have a stick, but it does help with measuring dimensions, with pointing things out, with drawing circles around tracks. It's just a very convenient instrument to use. And some people will use these sticks for other purposes. You know, you can keep up, if it's long enough, for example, you can use it to hold up a top, so you can make a makeshift shelter. And you could use the 3 sticks, if you were carrying 3 sticks like this, to make a tripod for holding, you know, for cooking boiling water, you know, over a fire or something like that. So there are a lot of uses. You just need to be versatile and adaptable and think outside the box to use a lot of these tools. You want to have more than one purpose for everything that you use in the bush, because remember, you have to carry it. Okay, so you want to have as light a load as possible, but you want to have all the tools you need to do what you want to do in the wilderness. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video, whenever that is. Cheers.